Sometimes I hear feeling in times with fear. Freedom we all hold dear now is at stake. Your hearts to God, safe from the chastening wrong. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will.
Name of the program is Hope for the Cities of Hopelessness, and today we have a first-time guest who I have been admiring for years and never did think I would get the opportunity to meet her, and now she's a guest on this show, and she thinks she knows she has some answers for Hope for the Cities, and it's Dr. Carol Swain. Thank you for coming and being on this program.
It's great to be on your program.
I've watched you on television so many times, and I just stop when you come on because you have an ability to project a clarity to all of the chaos that we see going on in America today. And I appreciate your strong views and your ability to communicate those views. A lot of people have views, but they can't communicate them, and you do such a good job at communication.
I have common sense, and I was born and raised in the country.
I've watched YouTube where you tell about your story, but the first question I have for you is, why do you want to be mayor of Nashville, Tennessee?
That's a good question because I never imagined that I would be running for mayor of any city, and I've told people for years that the call on my life was to hold politicians accountable and not to become one. And I was saying that up until Easter, which was also April Fool's Day this year, and I had a person who's been very persistent, over weeks and months, trying to urge me to run for office. And after we had the controversy in Nashville where our mayor had to step down and plead guilty to a felony, the pressure on me intensified. People are trying to recruit me to run for office. So Easter evening, now Easter morning I told everyone that asked me, no, I'm not running for mayor of Nashville. Easter evening, this person who was very persistent called me at home and said, please just pull the paperwork. You don't have to file it, just pull the paperwork. And this was the deadline was April 5th. And so I just got down on my knees, I prayed. When I woke up the next morning, I woke up with maybe about 12 issue positions. And so God didn't tell me to run for office, but I woke up with those issue positions. I called the man and I said, I will pull the paperwork and I will file the paperwork, and I'm in the race to win it. And so that's how I got into the race. And I was also told by this gentleman, I had a million excuses as to why I shouldn't run, I couldn't run. And one was, how can you assemble a team, in 4 days? And he said, well, we have a team for you. And so they had a team. Some members have come and gone because I've shaped it to make it more my own team. But they had everything I needed to get started. And I got my treasurer and I got my signatures, and I was already scheduled for an event, and I did it all in one day.
Oh, well, I was pleasantly shocked when they said you would throw your head in the ring. I thought, oh, okay. And the question I had, why does a professor from Vanderbilt, what qualifies you to be mayor of a city? Because college professors, now I didn't do well in college, so that's not, I'm talking about excuses. I'm a master at making excuses, but what qualifies you to be mayor as in your background as a college professor?
Well, I mean, I'll give you why I think I'm qualified, but I can also say that when God He qualifies the called rather than calling the qualified.
Yeah,
but
okay.
What qualifies me is that I have taught government and political science for 28 years, and I've studied it for longer. So I've studied it probably for 33 years. And so I know what good government looks like. I understand the Constitution, and I understand federalism, the differences between local, state, and federal government, and what council members and what the mayor, what they're supposed to do when the system works the way it was designed to work. And I've been in Nashville for 18 years now, and I have noticed that it's not working. The system is broken, and it's gotten worse in the last few years. If you look at the Barry, Brawley, Carl Dean administrations, those administrations have been focused so much on big business and developers at the expense of the people, and there's so much corruption in Metro Nashville government, and we saw some of it with the downfall of the mayor, there's even more that needs to be cleaned up and cleared out. And so my concerns about the people who have been left behind, the homelessness in our city, you know, it's just increasing and skyrocketing, and the cost of living is such that I saw one study that reported the cost of living in Nashville, to live comfortably, like the way most of us want to live, if we could, you needed an income of $70,000 a year. The average Nashvilleian, the family, makes $50,000, and individuals make far less. If you're doing a minimum wage job, you're making, what, less than $20,000 a year. So we see our violent crime rate skyrocketing in Nashville. We're becoming known for crime. And so I think that the places where I've been, the degrees I have a degree in business, one in criminal justice, I have 2 in political science and 1 in law, and that qualifies me. But mostly what qualifies me is that I believe that this is what God has called me to do at this point. It was not something I was seeking. It came to me, and I'm in it to win it, and I'm hoping that people will vote early for me. The ones that live in Davidson County will vote early for me, and that on May 24th, there will be a new mayor, and that I will begin to put in place policies and programs that would benefit everyone.
Do you have a team? Do you have people in mind to be on your team once you were elected? Do you have the people that you can will work with you and will implement these Swain views that you can trust?
Well, I'm in the process now of assembling a transition team and identifying people that can go in and fill some positions where the current occupants will need to move along. And so we're identifying the best qualified people we can find. And one of the things that has to be ended to get rid of the corruption is no bid contracts. We have a system now where the mayor and his cronies are able to take public property and give it to their friends and not have a bidding on that land. And so I want to institute transparency and bring integrity to government, and to make sure that we're hiring the best qualified people for positions, but we also getting the best deals when it comes to contracts, and that public property is not being given away without any discussion from the people.
My people, the people I serve, and some people will be offended when I talk about my people because I don't know what that means. I don't know why they get offended, but they can get over it. But my people can't find affordable housing.
Right.
And I'm having more and more families come to me and say, we're going to have to move to Clarksville.
I've heard that.
I've had people in government tell my folks, you need to move to Pulaski. You need to move
Well,
to
that's because they're trying to push all the poor people out of town. Not just the poor people, it's the working people, because a lot of the people that are moving are people that have jobs. They're working. And so if they move to Clarksville, some of them will have to commute into Nashville, adding to the traffic congestion. And I have a blueprint for Nashville. If you go to my website, swainformayor.com, I am the only candidate that actually has issue positions and a blueprint. And when it comes to affordable housing, there are a couple of things going on. There's a need for people that are working, you know, that are not making $70,000 a year to be able to live and work in Nashville. Many of them have been here for generations. And so there are developers who would build in North Nashville, in Bordeaux, along Nolensville Road, Trinity Lane. In those areas, they would build, but the city has put up obstacles. They would build houses that could be purchased for under $200,000. Now, the housing in Nashville, you know, $400,000, $500,000, so under $200,000 a year, that would be affordable for a working family. And when it comes to the poorest of the poor, I think that we have to turn to HUD. And there's a scandal about to break and soon, and it has to do with the misappropriation of HUD money involving city officials. And with HUD, Secretary Carson has programs, I understand, that might help Nashville. As mayor, one of the first things I would do is to go to Washington and find out which of those programs we might be able to implement in Nashville. And it's not enough to have these wealthy developers building these big sky rises and they say, well, we set aside 30 people for the poor. the poor they set it aside for are not really poor people. You know that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
When they go tear down a community, tear down projects, and I understand them tearing down the housing projects or the public housing, they want me to call it, not housing projects, but they won't call it public housing. I understand them tearing it down because of several reasons. Won't go into all that. But they say these people are going to move back in here. They don't move back in here.
No,
they can't get back in there because there's so many restrictions on them to move in that my folks don't get to move back in.
No, they push them out to Antioch, to Smyrna, to Clarksville, to Spring Hill, into areas that are outside the city. And the thing is, the approach that they've been using is to give these developers land, and they say, we'll build affordable housing, and so they have a few units. And then, like you say, people don't qualify for those units. You know, maybe college students will qualify, but I think a better idea would be to build the affordable housing in the communities where people already live. They're not wanting to, you know, go and live in Westmead and Green Hills and 12th South. Who wants to live in the jungle? I mean, in the most positive sense.
Yes.
You know, people love that. Some people just love that, especially young people. But people my age, you know, you prefer something a little quieter. And
but our people, this has been home to our people.
Yeah.
The inner city has been home to them, and they need. I wish there was a way we could get them the proper housing to where they could raise their families in this community.
Well, see,
and work in this community.
I am hoping that once I'm mayor and I have some say over contracts and I understand, you know, the funds that are available, there are some developers, I've spoken to some of them that they want to build affordable houses. And I think that there's land in Bordeaux, there's land in North Nashville, there's land that has not been taken over yet that you could build houses in those neighborhoods that would be in the $200,000 range. And that would be affordable for people who are working.
And there's another thing that we need somebody to do in government.
What?
And I'll be the only one that will bring this up to you, I'm sure, is so many of our people are challenged when it comes to filling out paperwork. Now, if you go in, they say, well, you got to get on the internet. They don't have a computer.
I know.
And so the
to
biggest
get a job
struggles,
now, you have to fill it out online.
Yeah. To be a person, be a mother with 6 children, a single mother with 6 children, or a married family with 6 children. But you are not college educated, you're not high school educated. You got children, you know. And so you need help. You need social workers. Now get this is the difference. You need social workers that will work for you to help your family so your children can have a good quality of life.
Social workers are not going to do what you just described the situation.
They ought to, because they're working for us. I'm a taxpayer, and one thing that just sets me off is when I call this happened to me. I called the office, social work office, trying to get some help from a lady with some food stamps. And I introduced myself, Dr. Swain. I said, "Hi, this is Lytle Thomas with Nashville Inner City Ministry." That's all I said. I didn't even say it in I tried to be in a soft tone because my voice sometimes offends people. I don't understand that, but it does. And the lady on the other end of the phone lit me up. She said, "And what is that going to get you? Who do you think we owe you something?" And boy, she went off on me.
They're so arrogant. They are so arrogant.
That needs to be corrected.
Well, you know, one of the things that you already know about me is that I came from poverty.
Yes.
And I was a high school dropout. I was one of 12, married at 16, had my first child at 17. And at one point, I was briefly on public assistance, like maybe for about 6 months. And the demeaning tone and the way they treat people. And I could never, ever have been a long-term welfare recipient because I just wouldn't have tolerated it. I mean, to me, it was an incentive to never want to go into one of those offices. And so they are government employees. They're going to draw that paycheck whether they help you or not. Many of them are lazy. Many of them are unqualified to have the positions that they have. But when it comes to helping people fill out those, to learn how to use the computer and fill out applications, I think that there's an educational role for volunteers. There's so many people that, you know, they want to go on a mission trip. They want to go to Africa or to Poland or somewhere like that, when the mission field is right here among us. And so those people could use those skills to help people that are closer to them.
if the mayor would set up and work at it, I mean, put people, the mayor's not going to do it because the mayor's got all this other stuff they got to do, but put a volunteer advocate out there to recruit volunteers to help families. Because this is what will solve problems. This is what I tell my church all the time and tell churches all the time. If we can get families that's got it together, that knows how to do things, if they'll adopt a family and help that family.
But I mean, the churches have responsibility, the business owners have a responsibility, you know, the mayor has a responsibility, but some of this is stuff that we have to do. And people have to want to help. They have to be willing to put some effort into it.
Yes. Now, my people will put the effort into it. But the people in the middle class community we need them to come and help.
But some of them will, I believe.
They will.
So, because I go to a church, Forest Hills Baptist, and that's a church that's pretty affluent. It's where the Lord has me. And now I understand why, because they have provided me with tremendous support in this mayoral race. It wouldn't be a contest if I didn't have support just all across the city. But there's so many churches that are sending missionaries around the world. We need to encourage them to just work at home. Yeah,
work here.
Some of those people are called to work in these communities.
Well, I tell you what, God has brought the people here to us. He said, go into all the world, and we start here, and He's bringing them to us. We didn't go get them, so He's bringing them to us. Here's what I'm gonna tell you about, because this will be my only chance maybe to get to tell you about that.
No, that's not true. Let me tell you this. Once I'm mayor, I'm not going to stop being visible. I'm not going to stop attending churches and speaking. I'm not going to stop visiting groups. I mean, I'm not going to be an absentee mayor. You're not going to hear about me going to Paris, Rome, and all of these places the last mayor
I'm
went.
not going to touch that. I know what you, I get the point. You're going to stay here. Okay, I got it.
I mean, I'm going to do my job.
That's good. I know you came and spoke to our people.
I did.
And you knocked the ball out of the park. And matter of fact, they want to get you back. They've told me, we want her to come back. And one of my grandchildren that lives with me, she just thought that was it. She just loves you to death on it. Here's what I saw happen in this city. When I started in the inner city, and this is a long time ago, it's probably 40 years ago, I wouldn't even identify with the police in the housing communities because there was such a mistrust, there was such an untrust for the police officers from my community, my people. And I saw the kind of behavior that was coming out of the police officers, and there was nothing we could do about it, and it was terrible. The police officers to have more flex.
Well, they actually have a shortage of officers right now, and the police officers have not had a raise in a long time, and there's this new budget for 2019. Some raises that were promised, you know, city officials, 3% cost of living. Apparently, they're being told that there isn't money available for that. I will have to be able to see that once I'm mayor, but they have a problem. They have a shortage of manpower. We
need more police. I didn't know that, but we need more police officers. But here's my point about Surpass. When I called, once he came in and got his foot in the door, I called his offices, or the police offices, and the people, how can I help you? Then I called social work office, and they just blow me off. So I asked Surpass one day, what is the difference? And he said, management.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You have to put people in line to be managed. As mayor, my prayer is that you will put people in management that will hold employees, hold government employees accountable.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
That needs to happen.
Transparency and accountability. And you wouldn't believe the information that's flowing to me now about corruption and, you know, and people that are being paid almost like no-show employees, contractors that are signing off on their own invoices, money that's being given to groups and they don't even have to show how they spent the money. Public money being given, you know, to individuals to, you know, for some purpose, but no accountability as to whether or not that person actually used that money for what it was given for. And a lot of it is affecting the minority community because they will pay off a few people and that they consider representatives, and those people, you know, will take it and do what they want with the resources, it doesn't trickle down to the people.
My people are getting taken advantage of, and I understand. My people, and you've addressed this on some media programs, we're raising and this is an offensive phrase to some people, but I never dreamed, growing up in the 40s and 50s, I never dreamed I would see people wanting to go back to the plantation. We have so many of my young people that's growing up that they want the government to take care of them. They're going back to the plantation in their mind. Well, I've heard young men say, I'm not going to pay child support on my children. It's the government. I mean, seriously, it's the government's place to take care of these children.
We know where they are getting those ideas, because I don't want to talk about political parties, but there's a difference between them. And I can tell you that this sense of entitlement,
yes,
that I am owed something, you know, whether it's for my race or my ethnicity or because I'm poor. I came out of poverty, and you know, I was divorced at some point, so then I became a single mother, but I was married when I had my children. But I never, you know, allowed the fact that of my circumstances to prevent me from working hard. And so I was able to get my degrees and be very successful in my profession because I was willing to work hard. And so there was a time when you believed in the American dream. You know, if you worked hard, you could overcome the circumstances of your birth. I think the American dream is still out there, but we keep telling people what you can't do.
That's
you can't
right.
do this.
I agree.
You can't do that.
I agree. I was watching Fox and Friends one morning, and had Huckabee, Governor Huckabee was on, and it was off the subject. One of the hosts said something about, and this a couple of years ago, one of the hosts said something about, well, why there's so much poverty, and Huckabee just snapped right off, and he said, well, I can tell you when the poverty started among the African-American race. I can tell you when that started, and he quoted, it's when the welfare system moved the man out of the home.
Yeah, that was in the 60s. They had a policy that if you had a man in the house, you couldn't get assistance.
And I understand
it just helped destroy the family.
I understand the thinking behind that and all, but we've got to understand something. God gave us a family first.
Well, I can tell you that Richard Nixon back in the 70s, he had a proposal to, there's a lot of poverty, especially in the South, and he wanted to give every family a ceiling of $4,000 a year. It didn't matter whether, it was for families. So it was for families. It didn't have anything that the man had to be gone. That was shot down because by some black members of Congress because it came from Richard Nixon. But it would have benefited a lot of families in the South, and it didn't require that the man be kicked out of the house.
This is what I know. I know of some husbands or men in the house that are not living good people. They have problems.
Right.
But when you take them out of the home, the children suffer dramatically.
They do best when they're in a two-parent family with their biological parents.
And we need to be able, instead of throwing him out, we need to be able, I'm back on them social workers again, we need to be able to work with that family and work with him and help him be a father, the kind of father that he needs to be. Let's go back to those volunteers.
Let me tell you some of the things that I really want to do. One is, I have a degree in criminal justice, and so I understand the police work and police officers, but I also understand the community and the suspicion between the two. I want to create a program, not a civilian oversight board. I want to call it something else. Maybe you can think of what it should be called, but where you would take people that are civilian citizens, and they would get legal training. They would get some training from the police academy so that they would understand the shoot, don't shoot situations of the police officers, and then they would ride along with the officers, and then at the end of how many ever weeks this program was, they would get a certification. And those people, you know, would be the people that would be involved in whatever this program is called. I think it would help build better relationships with the police. And when it comes to violent crime, I think you have to have the police, you have to have the community leaders, the business leaders, the pastors, the schools, and you have to, you know, do something about this culture where lives are not valued. In the black community, most of the murders are black on black. That's a devaluation of human life. Yeah. And the last part of so I want this program in place with the police. I want a more responsibility and cooperation to deal with the violent crime rate, the murder rate, but I'd like to see billboards in those high crime neighborhoods where the murder rates are high, where every time someone is murdered, their face will flash on a digital billboard, you know, until the next person is killed. Just let people see. These were human lives that were snuffed out, just to sensitize more people, you know, to the sanctity of human life. And I think that if we were to use that kind of approach, that the murder rate in Nashville, you know, which was a record level last year, would begin to decrease, but you'd also begin to sort of change the culture. And some of the neighborhoods, one of the things I'll do as mayor is to have a more equitable distribution of neighborhood resources, fix the potholes in the street, broken street lights, and devote some tender loving care to the parts of the city that are neglected. But at the same time, I would be encouraging the community leaders and the owners to pick up the trash and to take some responsibility for the neighborhood, to report those business owners that haven't cut their grass, and just to make North Nashville, Bordeaux, and other areas of the city as attractive. You know, bring development there, but we all have a responsibility to work to improve things.
We're running out of time. We never get to talk about traffic.
Oh, well, I can tell you quickly about traffic.
All right, you better make it quick, because we got 45, I got a minute, go.
Well, we can do something about traffic. There are short-term and long-term things we can do. We can use flex time for big employers. We can improve the buses. We can use ride share, and we can use technology with the street lights to make the flow of traffic better.
It won't get worse. We know it can get better.
We can make it better.
We can make
in
it
the
better.
Short term and long
to make
term.
it better, yes.
Right.
And the state comes in. I thought state comes to work one time, Metro comes to work another time, hospitals stagger. Big employers stagger their times. That's what you mean by flex time, is that right?
Yes, that's what I mean.
I want you to come back. When you become mayor, I want you to come back and do a program with me, and we'll talk about the problems you've encountered, but we don't have to go today.
I want people to vote for me.
I know
vote early and vote on the May 24th.
I thought you were going to say vote often. That wasn't it, was it?
No, that's someone else that does that. But we can change Nashville, and it can become a model for the rest of the country. And I truly believe that. I don't say anything I don't believe.
I think we can be there. We're not as far away as people think we are, because there's some good people in Nashville. Nashville's a great place to live. We've got to take care of our children. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. And we look forward to spending more time with Dr. Swain on another show. Thank you.
Well, sometimes I hear feeling inside with fear. Freedom we all hold dear now is at stake. Your heart to God, safe from the chasing wrong. Seek the way pilgrims strive, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. Trumpets will sound, and all of the dead shall rise. Righteous me in the skies. I'm going where no one does, heavenward bound. Well, troubles will soon be, you're happy forever.